Each year, more than 3.5 million cases of varicella, 9,000 hospitalizations, and 100 deaths are prevented by the varicella vaccination in the US. We know this for monitoring the impact of the varicella vaccination written by the CDC on December 31st, 2018. If you don't know what the varicella is also known as chickenpox. I know that no one here wants to get chickenpox or even die from it. It is not a good time for you or anyone else that you encounter. The same goes for many diseases that come from not vaccinating. I know several people that have gotten chickenpox before and wish they would have gotten the vaccination in the first place. I did get the chickenpox vaccination and never had to suffer through it, thank God. Diseases and illnesses are not only prevented by vaccinations, they're also prevented by people building up our herd immunity. Today I'll be talking to you about facts about vaccinations, what happens if you don't get vaccinated, and preventing diseases through vaccinations. Vaccinations help in many ways. The first way they help is by preventing diseases. Vaccines have helped stop many people from contracting diseases such as measles. Not only has it stopped many diseases, it has also eradicated some as well. Up until about 2 years ago, measles was thought to be eradicated. You can catch many diseases that I am about to discuss with you, such as chickenpox, if you do not get vaccinated. Vaccines have stopped many sicknesses, hospitalizations, and even deaths. From This Is the Truth About Vaccines, written by Brett P. Groyer, Robert R. Redfield, and Jerome M. Adams, we know that modern vaccines are effective and safe. Side effects of these vaccines are rare and usually never happen, and if they do, they are caused by unknown allergies to the vaccination. And that if you decide to opt out of vaccinations and decide to be unvaccinated, some of the more severe side effects include death, limb amputation, and even brain damage. Now, the most common disease that you hear about all the time is influenza or flu. But if you do not get vaccinated and you catch influenza, you can get from influenza A, you can go to influenza B. And over 80,000 Americans died from influenza type B last year alone. It is the easiest disease to prevent due to schools having many health officials come into their school to help prevent the disease. And the flu spreads like wildfire. From a disease outbreak tied to anti-vaxxers, Rise, States Take Action, written by Pate Robert, published by U.S. News and World Reports. Measles has taken many lives. Many lives. Approximately 21 million deaths have occurred due to it from 2015 to 2018. Many diseases such as measles can end very badly if you choose not to vaccinate. From not vaccinating children is the greater risk, published by New York Times, written by Jane E. Brody, August 10, 2015. We know that many vaccines are caused by people opting out to vaccinate. Now, the definition of opting out normally really only occurs when talking about vaccinations, and to opt out means to not participate in. Now, an example is mumps. Now, mumps is another disease that was thought to be eradicated back in the 1900s, but has soon been seen again in the earlier part of the year due to many people opting out of vaccinations. Some side effects of mumps include inflamed glands underneath the ears and jaw, like this child right here. And there are other things that can come from mumps, such as meningitis, encephalitis, and deafness. Now, another disease that you can get from not vaccinating is rubella. Now, rubella really only doesn't really affect anyone other than pregnant women, but if you choose not to get vaccinated, you might get a little sick while you're pregnant, but your unborn child would really suffer the consequences. Now, if you don't suffer a miscarriage from having rubella as a pregnant woman, there are many birth defects that your child can have, such as deafness, learning disabilities, heart disease, and even blindness. Now, the last disease I'm going to talk to you about if you don't get vaccinated, I have already brought it before, is varicella, also known as chickenpox. If you don't vaccinate and you catch chickenpox, it is very itchy, contagious, and leads to flesh-eating bacteria. It can also lead to encephalitis, pneumonia, and death. And honestly, if you want to say that you died due to chickenpox, which could easily be stopped by a vaccine. Now, if discussing all these diseases hasn't bothered you, then you should consider vaccinating. Now, if you're still on the fence about getting vaccinated, I get it. It's kind of crazy to think that you're about to get a disease that has been turned into a vaccine injected back into your body. But if you don't get vaccinated, you can suffer many diseases and illnesses from those diseases. We see from childhood vaccines prevent 322 million illnesses, written by the CDC, April 2014, published by the CDC, written by Sierra Rice in the Modern Healthcare magazine, that in 1984, to 2013, vaccines prevented nearly over 332 million diseases and illnesses, 732,000 deaths prevented, and 21 million hospitalizations just from getting one vaccine that took 5 minutes long. Now, there are also many programs that help prevent diseases, like the nation's childhood vaccine program, that most schools go through to get the flu vaccine in their school. Diphtheria, tetanus, parasitis, hemoglobinus, influenza B are all diseases that are constantly spreading like wildfire just because people are opting out of vaccines. And the next thing I'm going to talk to you about is herd immunity. Now, herd immunity you could think of like cattle. If one of your cows gets sick and it's surrounded by the other cattle that also has not been vaccinated, then more than likely they're going to get sick. Now, this applies the same way for humans. So if 8 out of the 10 people in this room right now were unvaccinated and we're at a high risk of catching influenza B, then even though I'm vaccinated, I could still catch influenza B because of the other 8 students in this room. So what we would like to do is we want to make sure that everybody gets vaccinated because it builds up herd immunity, which decreases the chances of anybody in this room catching influenza B. Now let us reflect on today. There are many reasons why you should get vaccinated. You have learned about vaccines, what could happen if you choose not to vaccinate, and preventing diseases through vaccinations. So now that you've learned all about vaccines and how to prevent them, do you think you want to make sure that you're caught up on your vaccinations?